Fantastic. There we go. Welcome everyone to the next HRAI webinar. We are welcoming the return of Caitlin Blundell with ActionCoach, who is going to take us through unlocking next level growth, steps for systemizing your HVAC business. Now, you might be asking, what does that mean? Well, congratulations, you're here for the next hour. She's going to take you through that and why it's beneficial for your people, for the growth of your business, and for the sustainability of your business in this industry. And at which point I would like to welcome Caitlin to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, HRAI, for having me. I'm so pleased to join again. And yes, we're going to kind of demystify some of these terms because I know they sound a little bit kind of like business schooly and maybe a little bit less practical than some of the other things we've talked about. So we're going to dive into it and talk about why this is something that is so important to do.
Thanks so much. Just a couple of housekeeping things, and I'll let you go. We are taking questions throughout the presentation. So if you have those, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, you got a Q&A button and a chat function. Pop them in there. I'll be watching. We'll ask Caitlin when it's appropriate. It might be during the presentation or afterwards when there is a Q&A session. Also, we are recording this. So if you'd like to share it with your team after the fact, you'll find it on HRAI's YouTube page in about a day or two. Other than that, I am going to turn it over to you, Caitlin. Educate us.
Fabulous. All right, let's hit it. So a lot of the time when we talk about business growth, or when I speak to business owners and managers about growing a business, there's an assumption that that means adding more, doing more stuff, working more hours. And the reality is quite different. The reality is that business growth is often about removing constraints. And when we think about it, the bottleneck is it's always at the top of the bottle. So this means adjusting some of the ways the owner and the management team are using their time and investing their time to grow the business. It's not often that people aren't doing enough smart stuff. I know you're all smart people and you do a lot of smart stuff in your day. Often it's a question of just of doing less dumb stuff, right? Or identifying and removing the anchors that keep you from growing. So we're looking for the time wasters. We're looking for the work that has to be repeated because it wasn't done correctly the first time. We're looking for the interruptions, the questions, the leads that maybe slipped through your hands because you didn't have a system in place to capture them and follow up on them. Maybe it's the lesson that you didn't learn the first time. So you have to keep learning that lesson over and over and over again. And that's where your systems come in, right? And it doesn't really matter whether we're talking about systems for tracking leads or for sales, for team management, for customer service, for asking for repeat business from your database, for admin and finance. All of those areas of your business have scope for systemization. And that process boils down to the same basic principles. So we're going to talk about some different ways to get proactive rather than reactive, to get the stuff that is already working well documented so that we can gain consistency in the business and so that those things become more trainable, so you can more easily delegate it and kind of get it off your plate forever. So if that sounds like a plan, maybe drop me a line in the chat. Let me know, what do you think are the biggest time wasters in your business today? Right off the top of your head. So what are the biggest time wasters in your business?
Again, you can just drop that in the chat at the bottom of your screen. But yeah, just off the top, first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. And if you're driving, of course, you're off the hook for this. Please don't worry about typing and driving. But if you are sitting at your desk, I'd love to hear from you and love for you to let me know what those are for you. While you type, I will quickly introduce myself. Like Matt said, my name's Caitlin, and I'm a business coach. So just like a sports coach, I work with business owners to help them set their goals, define the strategies and tactics, and execute their plan. I got into coaching after running my own business for about 8 years, and then I worked for a while as a startup advisor at a technology incubator. As an entrepreneur, I worked really, really hard for every dollar that I earned. But I always knew that if I stepped away from my business, everything would dry up really, really quickly. It wasn't really a business. It was more like a job where I traded my time and my effort for revenue. And when I started working with other entrepreneurs, I realized that a lot of people were kind of in that role, similar challenges, similar questions. And I went on a journey of training and education, which of course included getting my coaching certification. And what I learned through that is that there is a path to sustainable business growth. There is a path to building a scalable business. And most business owners don't know what it is. So that's why I do what I do today. I work with business owners who are tired of running in a hamster wheel and who want to ensure that they're building a business that works for them, not just a job. I'm going to have a quick look in the chat here. Yeah, feel free to drop in those biggest time wasters. I'd love to know what they are. They're a little different in every industry. Now that I've told you a little bit more about me and what I do, I'd love to have your permission to be your coach for the next hour. And as your coach, my rule for every session is that I want to have some fun. I do believe that being in business should give you more life and not suck the life out of you. So these moments for interaction, they're part of the fun, right? Like it gets a lot more fun for everybody if we can kind of customize the material to you and what's top of your mind. So please do get in there, ask questions, tell a joke, tell a story. It's all good in the chat. I do have some goals for our time together today as well. My first goal, of course, is to educate you in the system that I run with my business owner clients. I want to give you some tools to help you build an amazing business. I will say I'm not here to motivate you. I don't consider myself a very motivational speaker. Motivation alone is kind of useless. If you motivate an idiot, they're just going to do dumb stuff faster. So I want to educate you and make this your training ground and give you those tools. I also want to coach you. That's what I like to do. So I'd like to dig in. If you have questions, fire away. I'll try to answer them as we go, and I'll be available after our session today for follow-up calls as well. And I want you to walk out of here with ideas that you can use right away. I am an action coach, not a seminar coach, not a think about it coach. So I want to give you some actionable ideas today. And finally, my fourth goal for today is to help you decide how you're going to implement some of the next steps after this as you go about growing and scaling and building your business. So my plan is kind of to share some fundamentals of business strategy today. That's information that you can take away, you can use with or without me. And at the end, I'm going to give you kind of 3 different ways that you can use this information to fast track your business for those who are ready for that, who want to get to work. Okay, that's my plan for today. Now, if you've been in my other webinars with HRAI, you will have seen this slide before. This is what I'm talking about when I say that there's a path to a successful business. It's kind of this ladder, this sequence of events. This is what helps you build a profitable business that works even when you're not there. Now, whether that means you are getting ready to exit and you need the business to work without you so you can step away forever, or whether you're just reflecting back on the summer months and thinking, you know what, next summer, I would really like more quality time away, uninterrupted time away on my summer vacation. So whatever the goal is, these are the steps that can help you build that kind of business that doesn't rely on you quite so much. At the bottom of the ladder, we have this step of business mastery. These are really your core business fundamentals, because as the business grows, if you're always running around, putting out fires and feeling like the business is running you rather than you're running the business, this is where we start, right? The goal is to eliminate that chaos in the business. Then we level up from mastery and look at niche. Niche includes the kind of profit generating activities that grow your bottom line. And we could have called this profit, we could have called this marketing, but I call it niche because having that clear kind of differentiated strategy is so, it's a cornerstone to all of your other business growth activities, right? The third level is leverage. So now the business is growing, we've got a little bit more revenue coming in, and now we want to get to work to make it sustainable and make it scalable. So here's where we work on those systems and processes. So your team knows exactly what they should be doing and when, and how you're measuring their success. So we're talking about all those, standard operating procedures and key performance indicators, and even management systems like holding regular performance evaluations. All of those systems for efficiency fit into this step. At step 4, we're looking at the team, not just hiring a couple of people to fill a couple of seats, but how we can start structuring the team for future growth. So hiring the right people to grow the business and have it continue to work when you're not there. And I put systems ahead of team. I put leverage ahead of team because if the systems are already working well, then all the people need to do is really run the systems. right? Which makes it a whole lot easier and makes you less reliant on kind of individual superheroes in the business. The two steps at the top are really about multiplying that success, right? Once you've got a successful business in one location, then we can start multiplying it or growing into new markets and new territories. So if you're interested specifically in the areas of niche and team building, I'm going to ask you to kind of get online on the HRAI site and look back at the other webinars that I've run in this summer series. But today we're really going to focus in on that third step of leverage and systemizing a business. And I've heard leverage in business defined in different ways. At the heart of the concept is that if doubling your business means doubling your workload, it is not scalable, right? It's not sustainable. And frankly, it's probably not worth it. Gaining leverage is the only way that you can grow more without working more. The alternative is a path to burnout, right? To damaging your health and even your relationships. And building a successful business, it should not be, and it is not about win at all costs, right? We don't want to build a business that costs us things that we don't want to give up or that aren't healthy for us to give up. And so the only way to do that is to build leverage into the business. So I'll give you a couple of different definitions to illustrate the concept. And the first is divide to multiply. Divide to multiply means breaking things down to the simplest possible steps and then increasing the kind of the quality and the repeatability and the trainability of each step. So that when you combine that puzzle back together, the result is maybe easier, faster, more streamlined. But we start by breaking each process down to its individual component steps. So as an example, if we are looking at a sales process, for example, we know that each step of the sales process really exists to just get people to the next step. We just want people to keep moving along that sales process from, from maybe a proposal or a quote into a meeting, into a contract. So in that sales meeting, maybe there might be a first step where there's a purpose statement, right? Where you're explaining the purpose of the meeting and how you're going to lead it going forward. And let's say that you go through that purpose statement word by word, focusing on creating the result you're looking for, and then you start testing it. Maybe it means starting to think through that statement and using more words like you and yours instead of me or I or us, because focusing on your prospect is always going to be more impactful than focusing on yourself, right? So take that one tiny little step, and as you tune that step up, put it back into your sales process. And from that point forward, your sales process delivers better than it did before. Okay, but it starts with kind of chunking it down and looking at each component step individually. Another definition for leverage is do it once, benefit forever. And I will say maybe not forever, maybe at least like long term. And the idea is that if you do it and you don't bother to document it, you're going to be the one doing it all the time. If you imagine, for example, onboarding a new employee, if you don't have documentation for what that position does and how you want them to spend their time and what are the key outcomes or results you're looking for, then you're going to have to spend a lot of hours training them. And if you go through those hours and you still don't write it down or have them write it down, then when they leave, you're going to have to put all those hours in all over again with the next person. Now imagine, to contrast that, imagine we've got great documentation for the role so that that new hire can learn more independently. Sure, it took you some time to put that documentation together, to put that information together, but you can use it over and over and over again, and even use it to cross-train other people. And you save time in the long run. Again, maybe not forever, but at some point you're probably going to have to update it, but you'll benefit long-term from making that effort. A third definition for leverage is the idea of ever more with ever less, right? How do we continue to grow and scale up a business without adding effort, without adding hours or owner hours? The idea is that, if you've ever had to carry a box, we know we can roll a dolly along with a lot less effort than it takes to physically carry that box. So where's the dolly in the business, right? How do you make it easier? How do you make each individual transaction either easier or more profitable than the one before? How can we create the marketing system so that the leads come more easily? or the sales process that closes leads more efficiently, right? If doing more always takes more, then we don't have leverage. Finally, the most painful definition of all, leverage means letting go. If we have to be control freaks, this can be a tricky one, right? If we're always saying, well, I could do it faster myself, or I could do it better myself, or, this whole thing, it all relies on me. It's hard to build leverage in a business when everything relies on you. So we need to find a way to delegate with confidence. And we're going to talk about that a little bit throughout the hour. So again, if you are in a situation where you're running around putting out fires all day in the business, how easy is it to find that time to work on building leverage? It's really not, right? It's hard. If you're constantly getting interrupted, for example, that can be like a real momentum killer. It's like sitting in traffic on the highway. It's hard on the vehicle. It's not fuel efficient, and the progress from point A to point B is really slow, right? We know all of these little distractions and questions and interruptions function just like traffic. This is one of the reasons that I put leverage at step 3 on my ladder on that first slide. One of the things we look at in step 1 in developing business mastery is time mastery, right? And getting control over your calendar. But a lot of the time, it is the little things that really add up. Have you ever been bitten by an elephant? No, probably not. I did ask that question once, and one person put up their hand. So I guess occasionally this happens, but most of us can say confidently that we have never been bitten by an elephant. Because if something big like an elephant is coming at you, you see it coming, and of course you get out of the way. But who on the call today has been bitten by a mosquito? Pretty much everyone, I would assume. Me several times just last weekend, right? And the thing about mosquitoes is that they're small, so you don't always see them coming. You might not even notice them in the minute when they're biting you, but then after they're gone, you start to feel it, right? You've got that itchy bite. So think about how many mosquitoes might be buzzing around your calendar. These are the little interruptions or emails or text messages or calls, and you don't really even think about them because it's only 1 minute or it's only 5 minutes. But then you get to the end of the day and you wonder, where did it go, right? Why didn't I get around to working on my leverage, right? On working on my priorities. So if you think about that, if you think about where your time is going now, let's use this target, this bullseye as an illustration. Because around the outside, we've got the really low value stuff. These are the elephants, right? We can generally see these coming and get out of the way. This is stuff that we know isn't important, and we know it isn't urgent either. So sometimes these are the things that are flat out distractions, like spending hours on social media or on YouTube. It could also be something that starts with really good intentions, like, I don't know, reading some industry news, for example. And then the next thing, you've gone down a rabbit hole. So some stuff that might feel urgent in the moment, but when you look back on it, maybe it kept you busy, but it wasn't actually that valuable. And the idea isn't to eliminate distractions entirely. That's not human nature, but it's healthy to put a lid on them, to put some guardrails around them, and to really limit the time that you spend in this low value area. Then in the next string here, we've got the things that feel urgent, but actually aren't that important. Don't get us any closer to where we want to be. Things like other people's priorities, right? Those emails and text messages and stuff that other people want us to do. There's a great anecdote about Richard Branson, who of course is the owner of Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines, and a huge amount of other companies. And there was a conference that was expecting, kind of tens of thousands of delegates, a really big budget conference, and they really, really wanted Richard Branson to speak. And so they got in touch with his people and tried to bring him in. And they said, no, sorry, he's not available. And they tried everything to get him in. They said, well, what if the talk is only for 15 minutes? And what if we triple the budget? And no, he's not doing it. And finally, one of his people got back to the conference organizers and said, listen, Richard Branson has 3 priorities that he's working on right now. And if something doesn't fit in with one of those 3 priorities, the answer is no. Basically, there is no budget in the world that is going to distract him and take him away from those 3 things that he's chosen to focus on at this time. And I think that's really interesting, right? Because it is so easy to get swayed by the things that are important to other people or feel urgent to other people. But ultimately, we don't want to get swayed. We don't want to get distracted. Again, we're going to put some guardrails around it and limit the time spent in there. This is kind of like the low value area of the time target. And as we get closer to the bullseye, we get into the more important, higher value work. We've got the tasks that are urgent and important. These are probably the things that make you money. The majority of your time is probably spent here, but it's not the bullseye. Okay, so this is the thing, like doing the work, doing the stuff that is in your job description, that stuff that is urgent and important for the success of the business. Call it the demand zone. So the only way to get massive points up on the board and hit the center of the bullseye here is to do things that are important but not urgent. They're kind of in the zone. These are the things that are proactive for the future of the business, but maybe not in the present day to day. So how much of your time are you spending in the zone? And if every day your schedule is full of kind of keeping up with the day to day, then we know we don't have that opportunity to build leverage. So I wanted to talk a little bit about time management strategies today, so that we can claw back some of that time to reinvest on building leverage in the business and doing the work that's important. And I will say the number one strategy that I recommend to almost all my clients is to just do a time study. Do it for a day, do it for a week, whatever feels meaningful to you, but make the effort, set a timer to go off every 20 minutes. And at the end of the 20 minutes, just jot down what you did during that 20 minutes. I promise that you will have the most productive day you've had in months if you actually do this. And you'll also gain a lot of insight into how your time is actually being used and where you are on the time target in the day-to-day. And then we can take that time study and we can start to place it on this skill fun matrix. And the idea here is that everything you do in the day fits somewhere in one of these boxes. They range on the left there from the low fun tasks. These are the things that you get no enjoyment from. They're chores. You just got to knock them out and get them done. To the high fun stuff, the stuff that brings you real satisfaction and real enjoyment, the stuff that keeps the job kind of motivating and fun for you. And at the bottom, we have the low skill work, stuff that you could probably train somebody else to do within maybe a half day or a day, to the high skill work, which is your area of expertise, your area of excellence, the stuff you've worked hard to build your knowledge base, you've trained hard, you probably have a career background in it. No one else can do it quite as well as you. So again, thinking back to the time study and the time target, where are you spending your time? And if there are activities that are on your calendar that are in the low skill and low fun area, then that's probably where we want to start looking for things that we can take off your plate to systemize, train, and delegate to other people. The thing we don't want to do that a lot of the time when I start speaking to a business owner, one of the first things they say is, business would just be a lot easier if I could just clone myself. Like if I just had another me, everything would be easier. And that's really the instinct, right? Is to look at the activities that are in that high skill, high fun zone and say, that's what the business does. I need to hire somebody to take on that work. And then what happens is, that person probably draws significant salary for high skill work. They probably were chosen very, very carefully for the contribution they can make. And so, of course, that high skill, high fun work goes to them. You're paying them to do that work, so you don't want to give them the other stuff. And so what happens is the lower skill, lower fun stuff is stuck with you. It's stuck on your plate. You're kind of paying somebody else to do the part of the business that actually you're really passionate about, you care the most about, and you're stuck kind of making sure the printer has ink or whatever, or making sure the phone gets answered. It's no way to build a fun business. It's no way to build a business that works for you. So we always start at that low skill, low fun area. And that's where we start the systemization too, right? We're not looking to systemize the stuff that you're exceptional at, that you are like guru level at. Doesn't make sense to start there. There are 4 areas in the business where we might start to find some of these low skill, low fun tasks. 4 areas where we can start to gain leverage. The people, how do we use our greatest resource, our greatest asset, which is the people on our team? Systems allow us to do more with less. So how do we get every sale to be easier or more profitable than the previous one? We look at marketing, so that each lead takes less time and less money than the one before. And we can look at finance, right? Knowing those numbers, making sure that you're getting a good ROI on money you're spending, making sure you've got good data and good tracking for key performance indicators in the business. And these 4 things really work together. There are lots of interdependencies between the 4 areas. If you improve one, you will probably start to see improvements in the others as well. But I'm going to I'm going to give you some questions and some specific kind of steps to take as we start to build out the systems in those areas of your business. And we're starting right at the very top, which is, do you know where you're going? You got to know where you're going to know what the steps are, what the route is that's going to take you there. So we're talking about things like having a vision and a mission statement, or alternatively, some people like to call this a purpose statement. I don't really care what you call it. And I'm not really talking about the corporate speak vision and mission that get posted up on your website and that sound good to potential customers, but nobody internally actually pays any attention to. What I'm talking about is a way of kind of distilling your intended destination, right? Where is the business ultimately going? When Microsoft was getting up and running back in the 70s, Bill Gates had a vision for a computer in every home. That gave them this huge, big, hairy, audacious goal, this huge vision that everybody could pull together to work towards. So where is your business ultimately going? And this is all about getting clarity, because it helps you make sound decisions about all of your other strategies and plans and actions. It kind of acts as a North Star as you navigate the business. The next piece of knowing where you're going is a statement around your core values, or some people call this a culture statement. And again, I realize this sounds quite business school-y, business school-ish. It is something that sounds maybe a little bit light and fluffy and unessential to the actual day-to-day running of a business. But the reality is that can't be further from the truth. One of the complaints I hear most often from business owners is that their team doesn't always make the best decisions. This is especially when they're kind of bringing up managers or bringing up leaders in the business. Sure, they can do the functions of the business, like some tasks or getting orders out the door, but maybe they don't have the right judgment. So the things are still always getting escalated to the business owner. Things like customer service issues or questions around hiring or any of those kind of weighty questions. If we have smart, capable people who know what matters most to the organization, then having these kind of core values, it gives them some decision-making criteria. It helps them think how you think and build a business as you want to build a business. If you think about them as kind of filters for decision making, everything runs through these filters of do they match your core values? Goals work the same way, right? If they know what the goals are, they can help. So these elements of vision, mission, core values, SMART goals, they help train people to think like you. Which takes a lot of that mental load off of you in the day-to-day. When it comes to goals, I've listed here SMART goals. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this acronym. We're talking about specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and time-framed goals. These are the things that are kind of like, they give you the stepping stones towards that bigger picture vision. So this year, what do we need to accomplish this year to feel like we're on track for where we want to be in the future? And bringing it even, zooming in even closer to that. What do we need to do this quarter to be on track for the year? And what do we need to do week by week to be on track to hit our milestones for the quarter? So it's kind of a unifying, motivating idea that we can actually have everybody pulling towards a shared set of goals that are in line with the overall vision and mission of the company. You probably wouldn't start driving and go for a little while and then wonder whether you were on the right road to your destination. You punch in the destination ahead of time, right? You have that idea ahead of time of where you're trying to go so that you can easily find the route, or you can plug it into your GPS and your GPS can find the route. We really want to do the same thing for your business, right? We want to know what that destination is and what the steps and actions are that will help get us there. The next question is, do you know who will help you get there? And you may well have an org chart now showing what your company looks like now. I mean, that's interesting, right? It's interesting to know who's in which seat, how many seats you're in, right? But I'm also interested in thinking about what is the team that you need to build that will help you reach your goals. So I always find it's helpful to think about the org chart, have a copy of it that covers you for the next 6 to 12 months, right? What needs to change in the next 6 to 12 months in terms of who's on the team? And then another version that is as far away as 2 or 3 years out. That's kind of showing a picture of where are you going, and how is that in line with your bigger picture goals and your purpose. It is great for visioning, for showing growth potential. And what I mean by that is it's great for retention of good employees. For your star employees, if they can kind of see your vision and they can see that there are these new positions that will come open in the next year or 2 years or 3 years that don't even exist yet, that tells them that they can grow within the company, right? They can see that career progression internally versus having to look elsewhere to grow their income or to grow their role. Along with the org chart, we really want clear and accurate job descriptions. And by this, I don't mean the stuff that goes into a job ad necessarily, although the two, of course, need to be linked. But I'm not talking about a bunch of kind of like flowery language or legalese. Maybe there's something that's legally necessary in there, but if it's not legally necessary, we want to have it in real, clear, concrete, and simple language. Basically, we just want everybody to know what they are responsible for and how they're going to be measured. And this is one of those things that over time tends to get a little blurry in a small company. People might take on new tasks or focus more on what they're naturally good at, and we lose those clear swim lanes that we may have started with. So this is almost always a great place to gain some clarity about the business and to gain some efficiency, because you might learn a little bit about what tasks are falling between the cracks, or maybe somebody is spending a lot more time than you intended on something that you believe is relatively minor. And then the last question is, how is it going to get done, right? And this is really about holding everybody, including yourself, accountable to the goals and to that big vision, and executing the day-to-day operations of the business in alignment with them. So we're talking about things like how-to guides, and there are lots of different ways to do this. Probably the most effective system is a simple checklist. But for some pieces of the puzzle, there might be things like videos, like diagrams, flowcharts, infographics, pictures, who knows what it is. For your business, it's whatever the easiest way to document a process is. Here's how things get done. One study I read, it was really interesting. It showed that surgeons who use checklists to run their safety procedures instead of relying on their memory and their skill to do them, the complications from surgery fell 40%. Like, that's really significant. 40% fewer complications from following a guide, even though it was something that they knew really, really well. So it's important for surgeons to follow procedure. It's important for pilots to file a flight plan for every flight. And it's important in your business as well, when you want things done consistently and you want things done a certain way. I will say the best system in your business is the one that gets used. If it's overly complicated, or if it doesn't work well for their learning style, if it's too long, or if it takes too long to find it, it's probably not going to get used. And that's a really common complaint as well is, well, we have systems, but they just don't get used. If that's the case, to be really candid, your system probably sucks, right? They probably don't know where it is, or maybe they haven't been trained on how to use it, or you've allowed them to ask you questions instead of referring them back to the system. So you've kind of trained them to do that. Um, the next piece of this is the KPIs. These are key performance indicators. This is, tied back into that job description. How is success being measured? Um, every employee in the business should be able to tell you whether they've had a good day, a good week, and a good month. And you should probably agree with them whether or not they've had a good day, good week, good month, because you're measuring to the same standard. Right now, you might have employees who think they're having a good day because they're busy all day. And meanwhile, you're sitting there going, but yeah, but you know what? There's that one really important thing that I asked you to do and you didn't do it, because you have different definitions of success. You haven't set the appropriate expectations with those clear performance metrics. So we're looking for each role, yes, maybe each department, and for the company overall, what are the numbers that track? Are you getting closer to reaching the goals? Key performance indicators. I want to talk a little bit here about delegation, because this idea of training the team to ask you questions, it's kind of key, right? This happens a lot where we ask somebody to take something over and then it ends up somehow still on our plate. And there's an important difference here between abdicating and delegating that I want to dive into. We abdicate a task when we step aside, relinquish control, give it to somebody else to do, and walk away. You're out of the picture. And when that happens, it probably feels quite uncomfortable. It probably feels like a loss of control or a certain amount of chaos or unpredictability. And that's not what we want to do, right? We don't want to bring chaos and unpredictability into the business. We want to do the opposite. So that's why I think, as well as every other system in your business, having a system for delegation can be really important. And a system for delegation means you know what the steps are to take a task off your plate and onto somebody else's. Maybe it means that you have that written instruction for them. Maybe it means that then they have a day or a week where they sit with you and watch you do it. And then maybe it means you have some time where you sit with them and watch them do it. So they have an opportunity to ask their questions at that point. And then at a certain point, when they can do it without asking questions, the handover is complete. And at that point, they have ownership, right? So that would be like a 3-step process for how to delegate. Whenever you're delegating, we want to set some triggers or tripwires to show you when things are off track. For a while in that process, you may even maintain the decision-making authority. But at the same time, you can share responsibility so you're not doing all of the task yourself, right? So how can somebody come in and do some of the work and then kind of check back in with you and ask you for the decision or ask you for approval to go to the next step, right? This whole idea of delegation becomes much easier when this foundational work is done, right? When you have the shared goals with the team, when you've shared your values to give them that decision-making criteria, when you've got these documented systems and how-to guides, and when you've given them clear criteria for success, right? This is how you'll be measured. This is the result I'm looking for. And if there are elements in your business that feel really hard to delegate, feel like you don't have this set up, it would be an important question to ask yourself, what do I need to learn about this so that I can delegate it more confidently? I don't see any time wasters in the chat. So I'm hoping you kind of made a note of them, either mentally or on a notepad in front of you. Because that's really where I wanted to come back to those time wasters. If you have time wasters in your business, in your day-to-day, let's talk about what can you learn about that time waster? How can it become more efficient? How can you document it and systemize it and create that how-to guide that will allow you to delegate it more confidently to somebody else so it's no longer wasting your time? With any of this work, we of course want to also have a kind of a test and measure moment to know, is it doing a better job than it did before you did the how-to guide, before you set the KPIs, before you started measuring and monitoring? If, for example, you've created a bunch of extra paperwork or a bottleneck where people are waiting for approvals, or it's created overall a lot more work, then it might be something you have to revisit, right? We might be back to the drawing board because we want to get this right. This is something that's going to live for a long time, if not forever. So we do want to get it right. My last note on this slide is around management systems. And I wanted to call this out specifically because in my experience, this is one of the biggest reasons a business owner has trouble selling or stepping away or even scaling up a business, even growing a business, is this idea of a management system in place to keep everything humming along, to keep everyone working at a productive and competent and efficient level and in line with those vision and culture statements. So a management system might include things like, quarterly and annual planning sessions for the management team. It might include a structure for formal performance evaluations, or weekly one-on-one meetings or daily check-ins, right? This is a way to keep people focused and engaged. So going back to 4 areas in the business where you might be able to gain some leverage, right? For people, we're thinking about hiring, we're thinking about training, we're thinking about managing. We might be thinking about areas like customer service specifically. In systems, we're talking about, what can be automated, what can be documented, updated, what can people train on, what steps are taking too much time, what is there an app for, right? We're just looking for those ways to find consistency in the business, not necessarily blow everything up and re-engineer everything. First goal would be consistency. In the area of marketing, we're looking for, if it requires a lot of your personal effort to generate a lead, how can we do more with less? How can we do the same volume of leads with less time or with a lower acquisition cost? Could be something around outsourcing or rethinking the marketing message or rethinking different marketing mediums, different strategies, lead tracking, sales scripts, staying in touch with your database, asking for referrals. Any of these things can have a little system and a repeatable process built around it. And in the area of finance, we're talking about things like, well, having a good bookkeeper who can get you your reports, your financial reports in a timely manner so you can continue to kind of keep tabs on them. Maybe it's making a budget or a cash flow projection. Maybe it's delegating in certain areas so that you're buying back your own time at a discount and ending up with an overall more profitable business, right? So delegating is a big part of building that profit margin in the business. So what I would like you to do is, on a piece of paper in front of you, think of maybe your top 3 ideas in each of these categories. Okay, we're looking for a total of 12 things. So 3 next steps in each category, right? What are the next 3 things you want to do to gain leverage when it comes to the people in your business, to the systems, to the marketing, and to the finance? So I'll give you just a moment to do that while I have a sip of water. And if anybody has something that they'd like to share, I would love to hear in the chat. Maybe your top idea, your top 2 ideas for next steps, areas of your business where you think there might be some low-hanging fruit to gain a little bit of leverage. Let's give another minute here. This is also probably a good moment to pause for questions. If anybody has any questions about the material that we're covering today, please do feel free to stick that in the chat, and I'm happy to take those questions at this time. So we should have a set of ideas. Ideally, we've got 12 ideas, right? 3 in each of these categories. Let's talk about next steps for how to bring those ideas to life. This is a program called the Canada Digital Adoption Program. And Matt, I'll ask you if you could drop that first link into the chat for me. This is a referral program. There are other avenues to access this program. So I've asked Matt to put in the chat the one that I am most directly connected to.
There you go. It should be in chat if you want to open up your chat right now.
Thank you so much. All right, so this is a Canadian federal program. It supports for-profit Canadian-owned businesses. The requirements to kind of access the funding are that you have to have less than 500 full-time employees and more than one. And you should have at least $500,000 in annual gross revenue within any of the last 3 years. So if you meet those 3 criteria, if you're for-profit and Canadian-owned, if you have between 1 and 499 full-time employees, and if you have at least $500,000 in annual revenue within any of the last 3 years, then you likely qualify for this program. And what it does is it opens up a $15,000 grant to work with a technology advisor who can kind of do a deep dive into your business and help you build a technology adoption roadmap. This is where you start thinking about what are these systems, what are the technologies that will help me build the systems I know I need to build leverage in my business, whether that is to do with marketing, right? If we're in the area of website updates, social media or pay-per-click advertising, email marketing, if we're in the area of relationship management, so implementing a CRM system, if we're in the area of productivity, maybe with a better service or ticketing technology implementation, any of those kind of anything under that really broad umbrella of technology could qualify. So you work with the advisor, they get you set up with a roadmap, and then you get a 0% interest loan of up to $100,000 with no interest for 5 years to start doing some of the work, right? It's a really valuable program. There's also a small wage subsidy component there. So I'd encourage you to follow the link and take a look at this program. Go get on Google, do a little research about it. Start thinking about how you can use this program and other programs like it to start getting the capital in place that will allow you to do this work a little bit faster. This is a Canadian federal priority is making sure our small businesses are equipped with technology to continue to compete on a global stage and to continue to win the work. So I really encourage you to take a look at that program. It can be really, really beneficial. This next step is one I am much closer to because it's a program offering of mine. I'm launching a new sales masterclass next month. We're going to run it October, November, December over a 12-week time period called Get Clients by Christmas. And it is all about building a sales system. Okay, so if you're thinking about your own sales process and what you need to do to make it more reliable, make it more predictable, make it more consistent, take advantage of every lead that comes your way so we're not filling up a leaky bucket, or training your team, training whoever is responsible for sales on your team. This is a great program to get that work done, implement it, execute it, and then for the results before Christmas, but then definitely in the new year, you'll start to see real gains from having this sort of system in place. Matt, can I get you to put that second link in the chat as well? There's a link to a website which will take you, which will give you all the information you need. And there is also a free webinar coming up next week with more information on this program.
There you go. You should find it in the chat right now.
All right. And then the final next step is to come in, let's sit down, we'll do a business diagnostic. I offer a couple of free sessions every month. So this is really for those who are ready to take real action to build their business. Again, Matt, if you can put in the third link there, that'll go straight to my website. And there's 2 buttons, one to book a kind of a 30-minute discovery call and the other to fast track directly into the business diagnostic. Either one will get you where you want to go. It's just a question of how fast you want to get there. And like I said, I only these fill up quickly. I only do a couple every month. But I would hope to see anyone on the call in there so we can get to work and build your plan. So I'll close today with a quote from Richard Branson, who he told a little anecdote about earlier. And this is what he says. If you can learn to run one business successfully, then there is no reason you can't run any number of businesses at the same time. The principles are the same. And this is, of course, coming from a guy who's owned everything from record labels to airlines to food and beverage, a huge variety of businesses that have been really successful because he understands the principles of building a good business and being a good leader. So there you go. That's my contact information. So if you're here today because you were looking for a little information and a couple of action steps and ideas, I hope you got that. I hope you got your tips and ideas that you can take out and use right away to build your business. That's great. And if that is you and you did get value from this session, of course, a Google review to say so is so much appreciated. But if you're thinking this is great, but what now? I would refer you back to those next steps we just talked about and really encourage you to get in there and book one of the 3 as your next step. And that's it from me for today. So I'll pause, I guess, for questions and comments and anything else you've got for me.
Excellent, Caitlin. I know I picked up some things for my business as well. And even though I'm not it's kind of HVAC adjacent with the hosting stuff, there's a lot of applicable concepts, automating and kind of piecemealing things to run more efficiently. So a lot of good insights. Thank you so much. We do have about 5 minutes left for questions. So I will fill in some time if you want to put those in the chat right now. Just letting you know that, this is going to be put up on our HRAI YouTube page after the fact. Caitlin has her contact information there. Please reach out to her. And like she said, leave a review as well, because business owners live and breathe on those online reviews. Also, too, if you'd like to be the person on the screen like Caitlin, you can reach out over the HRAI events email. Let me know. We can come up with a topic, a thought leadership topic like this, and we can put you on the big screen. But I don't see any questions coming in, which means everyone knows exactly everything they need to know about running a business. But if you don't, there's the 3 links there, and you can get further assistance from an obvious expert. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. We hope to see you again.
Wonderful. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.